This episode is coming out on my birthday. I will be 53 years old when you are listening to this, or you may be listening to it after my birthday, but I'm recording it beforehand because I am getting ready to go to Italy to see our oldest son is studying in Italy. So we are going to take a little trip, and I will just happen to be in Italy for my birthday. Yeah, so I bought new earthing shoes. I wanted to show, well, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see them, but they're super cute earthing shoes from Harmony, and I've been wearing them to break them in for my trip. So I love Harmony. That's Harmony 783, by the way. And you can use our link to support the show if you're also interested in getting yourself some earthing shoes. I have flip-flops, I have the tennis shoes, I have all kinds of stuff. But some of you have asked, what about socks? So I get my socks, my earthing socks from Harmony too. You probably could find some conductive socks. I elsewhere, I couldn't I couldn't. I did a little search and I love Harmony's products. And so I also have their socks, but you want to get conductive socks if you're going to wear shoes that require socks for your earthing, because if you're wearing socks, then you're not getting the benefits of earthing. So, and you all know, if you don't know, I have a workshop that's on demand. It's only 27 bucks US dollars. So if you're like, well, I want to know more about earthing, go to my website and check that out. It's a great way to start learning more about the science of earthing and all the ways that you can benefit from that. But I want to talk about being 53 and how exciting it is to be in my 50s because I absolutely love my 50s. And even though when I turned 50, I did not feel like I looked 50 at all, and each year that passes, I felt like I went from 50 to 52 and lickety split, right? I just somehow just went straight over 51. I think 40 to 42 was similar, where you're like, you turn 40 and it's exciting, and the next thing you know, you're 42. 50 to 52 is the same. But turning 53, very exciting time. And I am so, so grateful that I feel good. I feel really grounded and clear. I become clearer and clearer every day. And I'm doing a lot of investing in myself, in my own healing. I kind of have been doing that for a long time, but I'm really investing in my own business and my own health and healing. And it feels really good. And we have a thing. So for my birthday, for years, we all would make fun of my mom. So I am an only child. I wasn't the only pregnancy. I wasn't the only child born, but I'm the only surviving child. And so my mom always says that all her eggs are in one basket. Like, and she loves to talk about me. If anybody who knows Trisha loves to talk about me. And on my birthday, we would entertain that. So we would always go to dinner somewhere, and my mom would just talk about me and growing up. And so I'm going to do a little teeny bit of talking about me for my birthday here. But I want to talk about it, and I want to talk about a couple of other things too. And I want to talk about it in the perspective of growth and healing and coming to this particular part in your life, which can be at any age, I think, but where you're feeling really comfortable in your own skin, more and more aligned with who you really are. That is what I have wanted my whole life. I have wanted to feel really aligned with my soul, what I would call the soul. I wanted to feel juiced up by my life force. And all of us have a unique, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I believe that we each have a unique light inside of us, and that is what is important, is to tend to that light, to align with that particular life force energy. And maybe that life force energy is the same for everyone, I don't know, but I think we have a unique package. Like we have a uniqueness about us, and I believe that that is what's important for us to shine through. And so that's what I feel like I'm really working on that right now. And the other day, if you know me at all, you know I'm really into my music. I love I love all kinds of music, but I like my music. And I have a couple of playlists that I really like that I listen to. One's just called Mine, and it my first Mine, Mine, somehow got deleted when I did some kind of trial or something. All of a sudden, all my music, my playlists were all deleted. So I have Mine too. I have a what I call green room 2 playlist, and I play those a lot. And the other day, I was listening to my music, and the song "Wasted Time" by the Eagles came on. And I remember being a freshman in college, listening to that song, drinking Miller Lights, and smoking cigarettes in probably somewhere we weren't supposed to somebody's dorm room where we weren't supposed to be smoking or drinking. But that's what we were doing with my sorority sisters and friends, and we would sing all these different songs, and we had all kinds of hand motions to the lyrics, and this is one that we did. And we would listen to Wasted Time, and I just it was bringing back a lot of memories for me. Good memories, but also remembering that in my early 20s, one of the things that I was most concerned about was that I would get to middle age, and I think I probably thought of 40s, somewhere in my 40s, right? But certainly I would get to this point in my life and I would have wasted time. I was so worried about that in my early 20s that I would make the wrong decisions, that I would wake up at 50 or so and look around at my life and say, "What have I done? Who are these people? Like what have I done?" There's another song about that. What have I done? I did not want that to happen. I did not want to look back in my life, on my life and say, "I wasted time. I've wasted the whole thing. I wasted a life." Now that comes from one, watching my biological father live a life that I felt was wasted, honestly. Maybe he wouldn't have looked at it as wasted, and the way that I look at it now, nothing is wasted. Where I have come in terms of my spirituality, in my life, in my view, having interviewed several people on this podcast that have had near death experiences. And I absolutely love hearing from people who have died and see something on the other side and remember that and come back and tell us about that because it's very inspiring to me. And I found that I just feel like nothing is ever really wasted. It all gets used somehow. Even the bad stuff that happens to us, the bad stuff we do to other people or in our lives, nothing is ever really wasted. But I do remember that when my best friend died, when we were 44 years old, it was tragic. My 44th birthday, I was there while she was dying, and it was brutal, really brutal to watch. She had brain cancer and it was yeah, it was horrible. And also beautiful. Like there were some really beautiful gifts that came out of that. But I remember when got back home, she died. So she went a month, about 4 weeks or a little less than 4 weeks from diagnosis to death. So luckily it was fast because it was brutal. But I just remember getting back home and thinking, I do not want to waste a second of this precious life that we have. I don't want to waste a second barking up the wrong tree, with work, with relationships, with my life. That I do not want that to happen. And I feel like at this point, I'm so excited with where I am in my life. And I don't feel like anything has been wasted or will be wasted, that it all gets used somehow. So I also, in part of my healing and what I've been doing, I've been rereading a book. I talk about it on the podcast, but I don't think I've talked about it in a podcast that's come out recently, but I have been rereading Eileen McCusick's book, Electric Body, Electric Health. And I was just thinking, You know what? It's been a while since I've had a biofield to tune up. So, our biofield is the energetic field around us that moves around us and through us. And what's interesting about our energetic field, I look at that as there are places in our energetic field that can get kind of stuck, maybe even feel a little, it almost energetically, it just kind of feels sticky to me. And if that isn't making sense to you, if you're more of a like concrete, logical, I can't see it, it doesn't happen person, this is probably not landing for you. But I can just sort of sense that. And I will, I have come to the place where understanding that we are electric beings first and that everything is energy and everything is frequency. And so if there are places where we're glitchy in our biofield, if there are places that are kind of stuck, could be something traumatic that happens, like a physical accident that we had where we literally have some scar tissue. It could be emotional, psychological, or what we mental, just it within our field, there may be some places that could use some healing. So I thought, I wonder if there's somebody over here in St. Pete that does biofield tuning. And there it because in Atlanta, where I lived before, my Atlanta folks, you can find this pretty easily, but I wasn't sure in St. Pete. Sure enough, I found Jenny what how do I say what's Jenny's last name? Stafford. That's Jenny's last name. Loved the session, loved her. I'm going back to do another sound healing. So she owns Resonate Sound Healing here in St. Pete. But you can look this up, see if there's somebody in your area that does biofield tuning. But I also just really love that she does sound healings. And she's very talented. And I absolutely loved the session. Obviously, I'm going back again because I intend to go back lots of times, and I intend to go to her sound bath healings because that seems like that's going to be really fun too. And anytime I've done a sound bath healing, it's always been really magical. It's generally a magical spot with magical people. So that's, part of it is the energy in the space, but it's also very healing. Sound is frequency. And so we can utilize sound for healing. So that's what I did. I went and saw Jenny and did this healing. And what's interesting is this time, what was coming up, because I've done a biofield tuning before and I don't remember actually. I remember it being good. It was in Atlanta and meant several years ago, and it was helpful. And at the time, I was working on something really specific, and so that's mostly what I remember. I don't remember a lot coming out of the tuning. I don't remember anything coming out that was like memories of older stuff. But that's what happened this time. So she was working on my biofield and like somewhere around I think 6, 7, 8. And so I was thinking about my life at 6, 7, 8. Nothing really remarkable came up. And then she got to 15. And so she said, "Oh, I'm just working. It looks like we're about at age 15 in your biofield. And it looks like some loss." And so I was like, "No, I don't really think I lost anything at 15." And then I suddenly started just remembering stuff. My boyfriend at the time, Richie Robinson, who at the time, well, I think he goes by Rich or maybe Richard now that he's an adult, but at the time in high school, that was my boyfriend. And you might know him from the Black Crows. At the time, they were Mr. Crow's Garden, was the name of the band. But Richie was actually a good boyfriend. For a long time, I had a very specific rule of no boys in bands. I could date people that were musicians, but I didn't want to date boys in bands. But it was not because of Richie. Sometimes people are like, oh, that's probably because you had a boyfriend that was in a band when you were in high school. No, actually he was a good boyfriend, decent boyfriend. Anyway, um, no, it's because I had really good friends that were in a band called The Wishing Wall. Kib Browning died relatively young, but he was a good friend of mine, and Marion Smith. Marion is one of my all-time favorite people in the world, and I used to hang out with them a lot, and I would watch the girls. And the girls, not that they were really like mean to the girls or anything, but the girls just, the way the girls behaved, I was like, yeah, no, not happening. So that's why I had that rule when I was younger. I ended up dating a couple of musicians, especially drummers. I had a thing for drummers, but they couldn't be in a band. Yeah. So anyway, lots of rules when I was younger. Lots of rules. But at the time, Richie was my boyfriend, and I had two best friends in my high school. So my best friend, my longest best friend, the one that died from cancer, her name was Angela. And so Angela and I were at separate schools. I moved when when my mom married my stepfather when I was 14. Was I 14 or 50? Yeah, 14. So anyway, we moved, and so Angela and I were still close, but not as close. And I had two best friends in high school. So I want to give a shout out to both of them. Not that they listen to this podcast, but maybe I'll send it to them. So Andrea and Kim. And Kim, I think Andrea wouldn't have been my best friend if we weren't both friends with Kim. Like I don't know that Andrea would have been. I don't know. She put up with me, but Andrea and I actually had a lot more in common. And Kim was just amazing. She's one of those amazing human beings. Andrea's amazing too, but Kim was one of the most personable people, she still is, ever. Never meets a stranger, which is great to have as best friend because you can get in anywhere, you can go anywhere. She knows everybody, but also kind of a pain in the ass to have as a best friend because you can't go anywhere without Kim knowing everybody. And then you get stuck having, she can't go and not talk to everybody. So anyway, shout out to both Kim and Andrea because I wanted to just say, as I was in that biofield tuning healing and lots of memories were coming up, some not so great stuff, some choices that I made when I was younger that weren't great, but I mean not horrible. But what was coming up for me is how much I love both of you and how I would never have made it through high school without the two of you. I don't think. Maybe I would have made it out, but not as well, and how important you both were to me during that time. And I just really appreciate that. And I also want to say that I am, I'm sorry to Kim because you were going through a lot of stuff then. And I think I had a lot of baggage before I got there. And I wasn't able to work on any of that baggage from my childhood until into adulthood. And so I don't know that I could really show up for you in all the ways that I would have liked to. So, anyway, it's my birthday. I can do whatever I want with this podcast. And I have been doing a lot of reflecting and healing and some of the smaller T traumas, not those big T traumas. I've dealt with all the big T traumas, but sometimes these littler things that we don't even really, you might not even want to call them trauma. Maybe that's not the right word. These stressors that we've had in our lives, the emotional charge that gets layered into our amygdala in our brain, the way our amygdala, well, actually, our thalamus is what signals the warning, but then our amygdala has these AMPA receptors, right? And so that it kind of gets glued in that way. Now you can unglue it, which is really exciting. There are ways to do that with frequency and something called havening, the havening technique. Love that. So there are ways to get unglued, and there are but these different things that happen in our lives that what I would call little t small traumas that we just move through life, just keep it moving, it's fine. But then they can create a little stickiness, static, whatever in our biofield. And so we can clean that stuff up and then we can feel a whole lot better and a lot of healing. And so that's what I was doing. And it's been really interesting the kinds of things that have been coming up and just how much better I've been feeling. I'm really, truly just more grounded. The point of any healing, in my opinion, is to feel more comfortable in your own skin and to be more of light that you are in the world so that you can be of service in this world so that you can how does Gladys puts it a special way. Gladys McGarry, who is a physician that's 103. So let's talk about Gladys because I just watched an interview with Gladys and she's delightful. She's considered by many the mother of holistic medicine and spent many years dedicated. Well, she just wrote a book at 100. I think she wrote the book, The Well Lived Life, which I think she's just outstanding. She's just remarkable woman. But she talks about in her book, and she talks about it in this interview, the juice. And what she means is we're all juiced up. We all have life force. What I think she calls it life force energy too, but everything is energy. And she talks about this energy and how we are responsible for how we use that juice. We're responsible for that life force that's within us. It's in every single one of us. You don't have to look for it. You just you have to tune into it, probably is the as and tend to it, but then it's yours to do with how you will. And so being turned on with juice is what Gladys talks about as really the purpose of our life is to figure out how to be turned on by that juice and to then be in service with that life force energy. How can we be of service in this world? And so she thinks that looking for, and I would agree with her, this is what I've been doing my whole life, is looking for what lights you up, not just so that you can be lit up in the world, but so that you can light up the world with what lights you up. And this was, listening to Gladys talk about her childhood and how when she was 2 years old, she was the physician playing with her dolls and always was a doctor. She knew she was born to be a doctor. And she said it's helpful if you know when you're young because then you can kind of have a trajectory, but it's never sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Sometimes you're bumping around in life and you discover it later. And I think this is what I did not want to happen with a wasted life. I didn't have any obvious talents. I wasn't great at singing or I was a dancer, but I wasn't like the best dancer. I was into acting and minored in theater, but I wasn't great. I wasn't a great actor. All of these things that I did, but I wasn't like, oh, this is what I was born to do. And I was remembering when I was a little girl, I used to line my dolls up on the stairs, and this is before I was 3 because we moved. I think we moved when I was right at around 3, so it was before that, so I was pretty little, and I'd line my dolls up and I would teach. I think I was born to teach. And that's where I feel the most lit up is when I'm teaching. And I'm so unbelievably grateful that even though I've left academia, I'm still getting to teach. I teach free classes, which you can come to that are quantum health, mood, stress, mood related kind of things. And I also have courses that I teach. And I'm so proud of these courses. They just have everything that I've learned in this curated way. And I absolutely love that I get to do that. And I'm super lit up by that. And listening to Gladys, like this is what I think I was most afraid of is not living a life that was juiced up or wasn't aligned with that juice, that life force that's within us. But I think also, just listening to her talk about how each one of us is essential. Like we are essential to the bigger picture here. Even if you think your life isn't that important, or like me, I was thinking, I don't really have any talents. So I'm sort of bumping along in life trying to figure out what is my calling? Where can I serve? And sometimes I think we're actually already in it, but we don't recognize it. And other times I feel like it feels like you're just falling backwards through a door because it's like what you didn't expect to have happen. Yeah, but I think when we look for what makes our soul sing, that feels very important and aligned and like it could never be wasted. Like it would never be wasted time if our soul is singing. And I guess the other thing that I liked about what Gladys says is that, well, I like a lot of things that Gladys says, but that each of us, not only are we essential and we have that role to play, but that when we share that gift that comes from deep within us, that when we share that of ourselves, that is why we are here, that is our purpose. I also like that Gladys talks about all healing is internal healing, is self-healing. So she talks about the physicians, like she is a physician and I think she's still doing consulting physician work. But she understands that whatever we do in life, we have certain skills and we're doing our best to be in service of others, but all healing comes from within and the physician within. She talks a lot about there's a physician outside of us, but there's a physician within that all of that healing comes from within. And she talks about love all the time and how that healing is love and how love is I don't think she says love is all that's real. I think that's more of a Sufi saying that I've picked up, but she does talk about how love is the medicine, and I've been saying that for years, like, love is the medicine. Like, all these different things. Yes, I talk about nutrition, of course, all of the exercise, and of course, I talk about the quantum health strategies that are your circadian rhythms and your mitochondrial health. I love all that stuff. And love is the medicine. And if everything is truly energy, and love moves that energy, then I think where we're coming to is that life is moving energy. Like, so if life isn't moving, which it is always moving, right? Life is moving because it's moved by love. And where we get stagnant, or that's where I think we have wasted time, wasted life force energy where there is, life force energy is literally being sucked out of you is when there's no more movement in your life. And I think that's what I've come to in my 53 years is that it's really important to have a life that is on purpose, that is aligned with who you really are, where you're really lit up, where you're energized, and where there is movement in your life. Yeah, I think Gladys was really talking about because somebody asked her, and the interviewer asked her if, people in later in life when they retire and the whole point is to like to slow down and she's like, you can playing is fine, but how is that utilizing your life force energy? Are you truly in service of the greater and not that she was acting like, Mother Teresa or anything there. She's just saying that life is constantly moving because energy is moving and it's moving with love. Pretty much all I wanted to say on this episode. Yeah, to just kind of tune into your juice. What is your juice? What lights you up? What is your uniqueness that you have to serve the world? And are you tapping into that? And if not, might now be a good time to kind of get into that. Why not now? Yeah, why not? Why not now? Yeah. And there's nothing that's wasted. I don't believe that any of it is ever wasted. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Thank you for being here. Thank you for celebrating my birthday with me by being here. And I look forward to, we'll have many more episodes with other people. And I look forward to the next time where I get to just chat with you and me. We're chatting about aligning with our soul, about all the fun things that I like to talk about, healing, of course. the next healing, and I will be talking about my adventure, the next adventure that I am on. Hopefully, I will be talking about that in a future episode. So, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.